Okay, let's dive in. The news about screen legend Diane Keaton passing away October 11th, 2025. 79 years old. It felt really sudden and honestly a bit disorienting.
It really did. She was always seen as this symbol of, well, quirky independence, right?
Yeah.
But so private in those last years.
Exactly. And that's what we're unpacking today. We're looking at the sources that shed light on her final months, which were apparently very quiet and maybe most surprising, what they reveal about this huge, complex, decades-long secret, her relationship with Al Pacino.
Yeah, the sources suggest she actually talked about him, about that specific love, right near the end, like before closing her eyes for the last time.
Wow. So our mission here is to get past the iconic hats and the la-di-da persona
Uh-huh.
and try to understand the emotional core of this woman who seemed to value freedom above almost everything else.
And what's really fascinating when you look at the sources is how her life seems built around this central conflict.
Conflict, how so?
Well, Keaton, the public figure,
Mm,
all about taking risks, nonconformity, being fearless. But then you look at her private life, especially those relationship choices,
right.
and you see this deep, decades-long dance with commitment, wanting it, needing it maybe, but also perhaps sort of avoiding it.
Mm,
We're going to explore how her famous style, her career choices,
mm.
how they might actually be direct reactions to things she learned from her family, her mother's dreams, her father's regrets. It's all connected.
Okay, let's start where it ended then, because that seems key to her final state of mind. The sources all agree her decline was incredibly fast.
Yeah, very rapid.
Yeah.
And unexpected, really, for someone with that kind of energy, that spirit.
She kept things incredibly private towards the end, just the closest family around her.
Very private. But, we should remember the context. She wasn't new to health struggles.
No, that's true. The skin cancer.
Right? She'd been managing that since she was just 21. That's over 50 years. 50 years dealing with a serious illness while maintaining this massive career. It sounds like in the final months, other complications added to that, and she just pulled back completely, built a sort of fortress of privacy.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting and maybe gives us that aha moment about her mindset then. Just before she died, she did something huge, totally unexpected with her lifestyle.
You mean selling the house?
Exactly. Her Los Angeles dream home. Put it on the market in March 2025 for, what, $29 million?
$29 million. And you have to get the significance of this. This wasn't just any house. She spent 8 years working on it, renovating, designing.
She wrote a whole book about it, the house that Pinterest built.
Precisely. It was deeply personal. She talked about it like finding the perfect, indestructible brick house, from the Three Little Pigs, a place she planned to stay permanently.
Which she'd never really done before, right? Always moving.
Exactly. So for her, someone who moved constantly, this house represented a real attempt at planting roots, at permanence, to then decide to sell it after all that emotional, financial investment.
Yeah, what does it set signal?
It suggests a really profound shift, maybe a kind of philosophical surrender, letting go of that idea of lasting security, maybe even embracing the impermanence she knew so well.
And that ties into other changes, too. Like, she used to be such a fixture in her Brentwood neighborhood.
Oh yeah, the daily walks with her dog, always the hat, the sunglasses, everyone knew her routine.
And those walks just stopped.
Completely stopped. She went into what sources call a very private phase, barely left the property. It kind of echoes that lesson she learned growing up, moving all the time. Nothing lasts forever.
So facing the end, maybe that independence meant letting go of even the biggest anchors, like the house she thought she'd die in?
It seems that way. A final act of letting go, consistent with how she lived.
Okay, but to really get that and the sort of contradictions in her life, we have to talk about Al Pacino. This relationship, 15 years. And the sources say, few dared to make public. It sounds intense.
Oh, absolutely. It started right when their careers were exploding. 1971, a casting party for The Godfather.
She's Kay Adams, he's Michael Corleone. Iconic.
Right, and she apparently saw him immediately as this, brilliant madman. But she kept her feelings quiet during that first movie, very reserved.
But then came Godfather Part 2 in 74.
And that's when it really ignited. Quietly, though. They weren't a flashy Hollywood couple hitting the red carpets. It was more about simple moments, quiet evenings in her little apartment, avoiding the whole spectacle.
But there was always this fundamental tension, wasn't there?
That's the core conflict, yeah. Heartbreaking, really. She apparently adored his free spirit, that unpredictable energy that made him amazing on screen. But she also knew, intuitively maybe, that he was like a wind always moving, never really settling, never fully belonging to anyone. And he seemed to know it too. He apparently struggled to even imagine marriage, once saying he just didn't know how to be a husband.
So hang on, if she knew he couldn't really commit, was she sort of choosing someone who mirrored her own fear of settling down, or was it just this really deep, unconditional love?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's so complex, the sources lean towards it being profoundly unconditional. And the proof seems to be, during that time, almost nobody knew about Pacino's really bad financial crisis in the 80s.
Oh, right. This part is crucial. His fortune, like $50 million, basically vanished.
Pretty much evaporated. Lavish spending, yes, but also a crooked accountant. He was apparently devastated, depressed, couldn't work.
And Keaton?
She was his rock.
Oh.
While others might have stepped back, the sources say she silently helped Al by lending money, just kept him afloat. And maybe even more importantly, she pushed him to keep acting, told him he still had it.
Wow. Her support wasn't conditional on him changing or marrying her.
Not at all. She was just there for him.
And that must have hit him hard. Didn't he say something like, Diane, you're the only one who never abandons me?
Exactly. Those words.
Oh.
You can imagine they must have given her some hope, right? That maybe this difficult, imperfect thing they had could actually last.
But it wasn't enough to change who he was, fundamentally.
Apparently not. Her own desire for a family, a more conventional setup, kept growing. And that led to the breaking point. 1990. They're filming Godfather Part 3.
The ultimatum scene. In her New York apartment.
That's the one. She finally laid it out. Al, either we get married or this ends.
No more waiting.
No more waiting. And what's so telling, according to the sources, is his reaction. No big fight, no yelling, just this silent, pained look, like he knew he couldn't give her what she needed.
Silence is the answer.
Silence was the answer. And she walked away that night. Chose her own need for family over whatever chaotic connection they had.
But even after that, emotionally, it wasn't a clean break.
Not at all. Pacino, years later in his memoir, Sonny Boy, he calls her a spiritual companion. He openly talks about how much her help meant during that financial crisis.
Yeah.
He cherished it.
And her, the one who walked away.
Well, that fierce independence didn't mean she just erased him. Sources say she kept a handwritten letter he sent her from Rome.
The one saying, Diane, I love you forever.
That's the one. And maybe the biggest clue. She kept a picture of him in her house, prominently displayed, right up until the end.
So the love lingered, even after choosing independence.
It seems like it. A kind of enduring sorrow, maybe. Her heart never completely let go, even as her life went in a totally different direction.
Okay, let's shift to how she built that independent life, that persona, because her childhood seems absolutely key. Two big influences, right? But kind of opposites.
Definitely. First, her mother, Dorothy Hall. She was actually Mrs. Highland Park back in 1955, a local pageant winner.
Ah, so the performance bug came from her mom.
Very much so. The love of performance, the dramatic flair. But her mom also did something incredible. She kept these detailed journals about Diane's life. 85 of them.
85 journals, wow. That's intense documentation.
It really is. A powerful legacy of attention that probably shaped Diane's own artistic high later on.
And then the counter-influence was her father.
Right. He was a construction engineer, and apparently he hated his job. On his deathbed, he told Diane he'd always hated his work and regretted not taking more creative chances.
Oof. That must have landed hard.
Like a lightning bolt, apparently. His regret became her fuel. It drove her determination to chase unconventional roles, to embrace risk, to not play it safe. She saw firsthand how conformity could lead to a life of quiet desperation.
She wasn't going to let that happen to her.
No way. And even her name change ties back to her mother. Her real name was Diane Hall.
But there was another Diane Hall in Actors Equity.
Exactly. So she took her mother's maiden name, Keaton, a direct nod to that maternal legacy right as her career was starting.
Interesting. But while she's projecting this confidence, this artistic risk-taking, there was a serious private struggle happening too.
Yes, the eating disorder. A 5-year battle, kept totally secret from about 1968 to 1973.
And that started because of pressure related to a role?
Yeah, the musical Hair. Apparently there was pressure to lose weight after she refused to do the nude scene.
And it spiraled from there.
Into a really desperate silent struggle. Sources say at its worst, she was purging up to 20,000 calories a day, causing all sorts of health problems.
While starring in The Godfather.
Exactly. Think about that disconnect. This rising star, seemingly so bold, but privately dealing with intense insecurity and illness. Therapy, daily therapy, was what finally helped her recover.
And that insecurity, it actually helped shape her most famous contribution, didn't it? Her style.
Absolutely. The oversized suits, the ties, the hats,
Yeah.
that whole androgynous, non-conforming look, it wasn't just, oh, this looks cool.
It started practically, right? Thrift stores.
Yeah, growing up without a lot of money, her mom would rework secondhand clothes. Later, in Hollywood, that style became like a shield, a weapon, as some sources put it, against her own insecurity.
Kind of hiding in plain sight.
Sort of. And then, with Annie Hall working with the costume designer, that look just exploded. It became the Diane Keaton look. Instantly recognizable, endlessly copied. It was her armor turned into high fashion.
And that mix of vulnerability and boldness really defines her acting career, too. The range is incredible when you look at it.
Totally. You start with The Godfather. Kay Adams goes through this huge internal shift from naive outsider to someone who understands the chilling reality of that family. It's all subtle, internal.
Then boom, Annie Hall, Oscar win. Comedy icon. Basically playing a version of herself, her real conversations with Woody Allen.
Right. But then you have to remember things like Looking for Mr. Goodbar. That was dark. Raw, sexual, tragic. It showed she wasn't just the quirky girl next door. Huge versatility.
And she kept that power later in her career. The First Wives Club in '96. That was massive.
A genuine cultural moment. And it proved that three women in their 50s could carry a huge hit movie. Really shifted things in Hollywood.
And throughout much of this, there's Woody Allen. Their relationship was pivotal.
Absolutely pivotal. Romantically involved early on, but then it became this incredibly deep, long-lasting artistic partnership based on real intellectual connection and trust.
And that trust was solid. She publicly supported him years later during the 2018 accusations, even with all the backlash.
Which fits, doesn't it? That theme of unwavering loyalty, whether it is defending Allen or quietly helping Pacino through his crisis. Personal history and relationships seem to matter more to her than public opinion.
Loyalty and independence, kind of the two poles of her life.
Exactly.
So in the end, she never married. Sources say that was rooted in seeing her own mother maybe sacrifice too much for family.
Right. She didn't want to repeat that pattern.
But she did find the family she wanted on her own terms, adopting Dexter and Duke in her 50s, creating her own unique unit.
She built the family structure that worked for her outside of convention.
And the tributes after she passed, they were so warm. Bette Midler, Goldie Hawn saying they'd planned to grow old together, Reese Witherspoon calling her a truly original person. Her legacy as an independent force seems secure.
It absolutely is. Which brings us back to that final, maybe provocative thought for you, the listener. Here's Diane Keaton. Spent her entire life championing independence. In her work, her style, choosing not to marry, becoming a single mother. Fiercely independent.
Right.
Yet, the sources strongly suggest she held on to this deep, unwavering emotional connection to Al Pacino, the one man who explicitly could not give her the commitment she once asked for. She kept his picture, his letter, close to the very end.
So what does that mean?
That's the question, isn't it? Was this inability to completely let go of him the ultimate contradiction in a life dedicated to freedom? Or does it show something else? A different kind of love, maybe. One that existed alongside her independence. A sort of enduring, beautiful sorrow that didn't negate her choices, but coexisted with them.
A love beyond commitment, perhaps.
Perhaps. It's complex. It's the heart of who she was. Definitely something to think about.